eating and talking while my dad's running the record. I'm just a kid and I'm thinking, what did he play on that record for? They're not listening to this. Or how good it is. And there wasn't an Armenian in the truth. In that day, we only had one congregation in Los Angeles. That was 9th and Grand, Trinity Auditorium, in the Embassy Hotel in one of the books. And that's where we used to go. My dad loved to sing. He had a powerful voice. Then I just found out from Monahead that he used to sing in the churches. I didn't even know that. He never did tell. But then he met my mother. She came from Ohio. She was Scots, Irish, and German. So she married my dad. And Pastor Russell used to come to the house. And my sister said she remembered Esther sitting in his lap. It goes way back to when. And then all I ever heard from the day I was born was about it's going to all end, and never did. It just kept going on and on. I kept thinking, well, I'll never get married, I'll never have kids, and it still did. Went on and on. Now I'm 86, ready to die. It's not here yet, but I'm still living in expectation of it. But I just can say that I've been through every phase. When they said, don't get married, don't have kids, and then don't go to school, quit school. And my sister Esther said, yeah, who needs education when our vacation is so close? She got her tongue tied. But I mean, then my brother Phil, he got into working on the Beth Sarah and Beth Shan. My mother did the decorating on the walls. And they go all the way back to when, and then she did the paintings. I didn't even know that a brother came to show the photodrama of creation at our hall when I was about 35. And he said that my dear sister painted these murals, Rose Halvajohn. I said, that's my mom. I didn't even know she painted them. She never mentioned it. But she did paint did some paintings at 924, was it? 124 Columbia. And she did murals on the wall in 1950, went to the assembly, and the next year she died. And then Elaine, my niece, that's here, and her husband went to Venezuela, and they were in the circuit work here with the Spanish, and she just worked on they took her off the circuit for a year to do some more paintings on the Bethel, the different places. But it's just been an ongoing thing. You could say we're still here. We're not giving up yet.
She has a great record of pioneering and disciple making. Sometimes you'll learn about it if you don't know it already. Okay, kids, listen up. I'm going to tell you a story. Story time. This is about an 8-year-old boy. How many here are 8 years old? Only 2. Because you're going to be 8 pretty soon, aren't you? Okay. And it happened over 70 years ago. You're a little young to understand 70. You know what 70 is? It's 1 multiplied by 70. Now, this little boy went to a convention with his mother. His dad couldn't make it on that one. From Fresno to Los Angeles. Because that was the only place you could go to a convention in those days. And it was like a convention that you go to, only there's one speaker there that you will never hear unless you hear him on a record, phonograph record, or some other means of communication. It's his brother Joseph F. Rutherford. We used to call him Judge Rutherford. And he was giving a talk, and this 8-year-old boy was sitting with his mother, listening to the talk on dedication. You know what dedication is? It's when you dedicate your life to Jehovah God and you go and listen to a talk. And his brother Rutherford was talking. The little boy turned to his mother and he said, I want to get baptized. Now, you know, in those days, there were no unbaptized publishers as such. There was no questions, nothing. And she said, okay. So after the talk was over, he marched along with the baptismal candidates, and he was even given a bathing suit. We don't do that today. And had to undress there in front of all these other men that were naked, you know. And never saw him anything like that in his life. And he went to get baptized. And he didn't know a whole lot, but he knew one thing. Behave yourself. He wanted to serve Jehovah. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to serve Jehovah. And he committed his life. And he never left that commitment. Well, he did some funny things when he was a teenager. But he got on the right track. And here I am.
I'm going to tell you a story too. Now this is a story about a girl who was 10 years old. And she lived a long time ago in the state of Illinois. And she was part of a wagon train that came out from the state of Illinois to California. Now, this little girl's name was Sally Fox. She's not one of our relatives. And she was never one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But there's something interesting about her story and something that could have meaning for all of you young children. While Sally was on this long trip from Illinois out to California, they got into an area called Arizona, and their wagon train, have you ever seen on television a wagon train where they're pulling wagons with horses and mules and oxen? Have you seen that?
Oh, I only said that.
They didn't have any little trains.
This is my
What happened was that suddenly this wagon train was attacked by Indians. And the Indians took over the wagon train, stole all the horses, took the cattle, and when the men tried to fight them, some of the fathers and uncles in the wagon train were killed. And little Sally Foxy's stepdad was one of the men who was killed. So here's Sally and her sister and her mother and a few others left over in the wagon train, and they're stranded. Their horses are gone, cattle is gone, food is running out. Looks like they're all going to die in the wilderness. Then suddenly in the distance they see another wagon train coming. And as it gets closer and closer, they see that there's a number of wagons and some men riding horses, and they have some cattle with them. And then this wagon train comes up to where Sally's people are, and the owner and the manager of this wagon train, Edward Smith, gets down off his horse and looks around at all the wagons, the people that are without food, the men who are dead and need to be buried, and he takes over the wagon train. And so he gathers up what's left remaining, and then he takes from his stores, from his wagons, food for all these children and the mothers and the women who are left. And then he decides to take the wagon train that has been robbed by the Indians back to Arizona, to New Mexico. And so they had to go back about 500 miles to find a place where this wagon train with all these people could spend the winter and get their wagons and their food and all of their things replenished. So it cost this man his trip because he had going out to California. He had to turn around with the injured people and those who were without food and bring them back part way to where he started from. Now, little Sally Fox, she had been injured in this battle, and an Indian arrow had gone right through her shirt, through part of her stomach, and so she was injured. And so he was very concerned about her injury and helping her mother to get her well again on the way back. So now, just think about this. This happened a long time ago, and Sally Fox is dead. She lived to be an old woman, and she came up and actually lived in Vacaville, here in California, at the end of the trip. And of course, Edward Smith, after he lived his life, he died also. But what's interesting about this story is what opportunity we may have after Armageddon. Because after Armageddon, it's possible that Sally Fox will be among those who are resurrected. Would you like to meet her, get to know her? Wouldn't that be something wonderful? And wouldn't you like to get to know this very kind man who took over this wagon train and helped it and brought it back to safety, Edward Smith? Especially so because Edward Smith was one of our great-great-great-grandfathers.
I'm going to tell you a story of a young boy who started out in the house-to-house work when it first started in Madeira. And he placed, I can't remember just how many deliverance books. And then he kept on in the service and became a special pioneer. And in his summers, he spent with Dwayne Tujon's father, pioneering in different areas in California. And then in 1942, he came back to Fresno, and that's when I met him. And I had been baptized when I was 21, so I married my beloved husband, David. We raised, our first babies were twins. We raised 6 children. And now, 5 of them are working with different foreign language groups. One girl spent a year in Nicaragua. A grandson spent 6 months with the Spanish. 2 of them have been at Bethel. One is going, and one son is the presiding overseer and with the building part of the organization. And so they grew up and took a part in whatever could be done in Jehovah's work. And that's the only way to go. Stay with it, and Jehovah will bless you all the way through. And I want to thank the ones that got all of this together. It's so wonderful to look around and think that all these people are related to us. Isn't that wonderful?
I'm not a talker. But I'm going to tell you about a little friend of Ethan's. Ethan, could you stand up and let them know that you're Ethan? Oh, okay, come on over here. Anyway, Ethan has a little friend in his congregation. And this little friend, his name is Ethan. So when he also is named Ethan, his name is Ethan. So he went. His mother was out shopping and he saw this furniture store that said Ethan Allen. Oh, he said, that's my store. Can we read it too? That's not true, but anyway, okay. So he said, oh, this is another Ethan, and he's Ethan too. Three. So he says, yeah, Mommy, that's my store. And then she said, well, he says, I want to go see how business is doing. Can I? 5 years old. So, oh, you're 5 years old too. Well, oh, I lost your, okay. Well, they'll go back. Anyway, so she said, no, we're too busy to go to the store there. I'll take you later, we'll go again. They came back again another day and he said, you promised that I could go in that store. You promised me. And okay, I want to see my store. And he went in and she said to the ladies that were all elegant ladies, and she said, well, Ethan, this is my son Ethan. His name is Ethan and he wants to see his store. So they said, oh, that's nice. So they show him all around the store and he's so happy with everything. And he's so polite and they call everybody around the store and tell him, come and meet this little boy. This is Ethan. So then he says, would you like to hear my favorite Bible story? And they said, well, sure, let's hear it. And so he told all that he remembered about Solomon and how those two women came that had the baby that was dead, and each one of them said that was their baby. And so then he said, okay, he says, bring me a sword. And he said, well, cut the baby. This is what Ethan's saying all this. Did you hear him say that too? He's telling all this story, and so he's telling him they brought a big sword, and Solomon said, let's cut the baby in half. And the one who wasn't the baby's mama said, yeah, go ahead, cut him in half. We'll leave half.
Oh, I know that story.
Do you remember what happened?
He was about to cut his foot off, but he didn't.
What did he do?
He figured out who the girl was.
You're right. And he said this. Because the real mama came out and said, no, give it to her, let her have it, okay? And so then he says, okay. He said, now he knew what?
Because the other one was mean and the other one was nice.
That's right, he knew the baby's mama was the nice one. Anyway, the ladies were so happy. They were so happy to hear that, and they called everybody, made him do it all over again because he did it so good. And then the ladies wanted to know how he knew all these things. What do you think his mother told the ladies? What?
I think he told the lady that sharing is always nice.
Do you remember what they told the ladies why he knew so much about the Bible? They told the ladies that he was one of
Jehovah's
That's right. And they said, oh, how come he knows so much? And they told them what we do and how we always study the Bible and how the kids learn from their parents and how they know how to talk to people and how they get up on the platform and are in the school. And they told her about the Bible storybook. And what do you think the ladies wanted?
I think they wanted the baby. They wanted it, and they had his mother bring all the books back so they could all get big Bible story books for their grandchildren and their children. And so the mother was so happy. She said, Jehovah answered my prayers because I never was able to talk to people like that, those kind of people in those fancy stores. But Ethan helped me, and he was able to witness to all those people. And you guys all can do the same thing.
What is
story I have to tell you is about a young girl whose name was Ann Edith Ross. She was from Indiana. And she came out to California with her family real early in the 1900s. And she, first they moved to Orange County, and then they moved up to Los Angeles. And she was this time she was a teenager. Now, how many of you have babysitters? No? Okay, have someone come in? Okay. Well, she lived across the street from a family, Joe Land and his wife, and two small children. And they would ask Aunt Edith to come over and babysit for them on Sunday, because they were gone all day on Sunday. And one day while she was there and coming in to babysit, she asked the mother, "Do you have anything to read?" I'd like something to read while I'm gone. And she said, "Well, let's see, I've got a book here that my husband's uncle wrote. It's called The Divine Plan of the Ages." Because Joe Land was Pastor Russell, who was the first president of Watchtower Society's nephew. So Aunt Edith was, read that first volume of The Divine Plan of the Ages. And then the next time she babysat, she says, "Do you have any more of those books?" And so Joe Land looked at him and says, "Did you like that book?" "Yeah, I liked it very much." And so he says, "Well, you better start coming to meetings with us." So she started going to meetings at that time. And she would say, as time went by, there in the congregation, there was a couple of young men. One was named Pelagian, the other was named Tujan. And she wound up marrying Robert Tujan. And about a couple of years after that, my father was born. What's interesting about that was that the next time that Brother Russell visited the Los Angeles congregation, at that time there was 32 in the congregation. Imagine in Los Angeles and Orange County and Ventura County, there were 32 brothers at the meeting at that time. So when Brother Russell came, he made a point of shaking Aunt Edith's hand first, because she was the newest member of the congregation. Karen here give a talk here for a few minutes. An hour talk.
It's late, I know, and I'll be very short. But some have asked, how did the Davidians and the Tujans get together? And the Davidians lived in Fresno, my dad, my mother, and sister. And
The volume's down.
they can't hear.
Do the mic, other mic up, the other mic.
Okay, how's this? Yeah, the Davidians lived in Fresno, and the Tujans lived in Los Angeles. They had a mutual friend, a rancher in a little town south of Fresno, Fowler. And so they met there. I don't know why or how that happened, but my dad got his eye on my mother, who was a Tujan, okay? But her brother, Robert, Uncle Bobby, he didn't want anyone who wasn't a witness. My dad, by the way, was a Christian church. He loved the Bible, carried a Bible with him, he was in the youth, and so he was a really a moral, upright person. But Uncle Bobby didn't want anybody but someone in the truth fooling around with his sister. So he went up to my dad and said, "Do you have an immortal soul?" And my dad said, "Yes." And he says, "Are you sure?" "Yes, of course, I have an immortal soul." He says, "Then why does the Apostle Paul say that we seek for glory honor and King James immortality or incorruptibility in the New World. How's that happen? And my dad didn't have an answer. So he proceeded to show that there was a difference between having a jackass and being a jackass. Anyway, my dad got Brother Bush's books, all of them read them in 3 months, and in 1909 he was baptized. And then he was able to court my mother and married her in 1912. And that's why I'm here.
What you think? This was an astounding thing, the most amazing, unique gathering that could ever be. Family. As our God, who originated the family, that's a little scripture over here told about the families that Jehovah created, and that's what we see. See people who are future new world occupants. We're going to be in the new world if we continue to serve Jehovah and have stronger faith, because we're living in that very perilous and turbulent time right now. So we wanted to also thank you for the help of my daughter who did a tremendous amount, and my other daughter, who lives very good. And I just had to say, do this, do that. No, I just listened, and they had the experience with things of this nature. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed meeting everybody. I was telling you different ones that, let's see, it's been about 10% now, I think, that I knew. That about 90% I didn't even know you personally, so I remember everybody's name. Yeah. Yes, Brother Smith and Jones, no. Anyway, really appreciate everybody coming, and the kitchen staff. We really want to thank them. Not easy. Now, there's one other thing. Brother Sujian brought something, a box of Acmac crackers for everyone here. Some of that you young ones can find them and give the boxes out to each one. Would you like to do that? Okay, so that just about concludes everything today and tonight. Went into the evening, we really enjoyed it. Enjoyed meeting everybody for the first time. And I just want to mention too, the first, about 38 years ago, my father, Kirsan, had a family reunion at the Claremont Hotel. And we got 25 to attend, so you can see how they, about 25. Now it's 178 of you here. So thank you very much for coming and giving your experiences, and so we can just continue to get acquainted. And at this point, I don't think there's anything else written here. So I'd like to call on Brother Dwayne Tuchon to conclude with the final prayer. If you